because you're taking mine. That's where you have the triangles and the what happened to that didn't live a good life, like we said once about Achov. We said that the Bensham gave Achov blessing because there was no Lashon Hara in his time, and we said he did Avodah Zorah like a Jew, so therefore he was basically doing everything he had to do. The Kaisha that comes on that, and he said, we say that the bench was a special blessing until Eliyahu came along and and made it. It's not going to rain. But obviously, as far as the Shemayim itself, would have continued giving rain. So I say maybe it's not even a special tzivur from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe that since it wasn't a corruption of the land, it was they were doing the right thing, doing it with the wrong through the wrong balabas. But as far as the actions of Shalom and everything else and corruption of the land didn't become corrupt. So if that's the case, society wasn't corrupt, then they stayed out of it. They gave the bracha that they always gave. They don't have to say that there was a special thing that the Banishim did to save them. He just didn't intervene, didn't to punish them for it, because the society goes on and Shemayim and others don't act unless it's a corruption of society. That will be one shot. Okay. It says, Yavev Kamot Lichli Tizatatalim Wasi. He's talking about the Torah, everything he's going to talk about. And he compares his words to rain and to dew. And Rashi says the reason is that because dew hakol smechem boy, everybody's happy with dew. And rain, there are times when rain is a problem. He filled his bar with wine. He just went out with his brand new suit, got all soaked. I mean, there are different things that are wrong with the rain. I think what he's trying to tell us in the rain and dew, because dew, if you think about it, dew isn't very pleasant either. I call smechem. If I'm a farmer, maybe I'm smechem. But if I live in the country, I put on my Shabbos suit, and I don't have a paved path, I have to go through grass, and my cuffs are not going to be pressed there by the time I get home. My shoes are not going to be shined anymore. They're all going to get stained and whatever it is. So what do you mean I have no tzar? Of course I have tzar from dew, right? And if I'm driving at night, for sure you have. Your windows keep getting blocked up. It's a thing there, it's annoying. So I would say that it means is this, the annoyance though is minor. In other words, a person, if he lives according to the Torah, and there's going to be setbacks because of ownership he deserves, setbacks of tests. It doesn't make a difference why there are setbacks in life, but they're going to be setbacks. And but if I do it for the reason the Torah told me to do it, not because of my own reasons, then the thing is the maximum pain I would get out of it would be due. But if I do it for my own reasons, I corrupt really the way the Torah says. I'll give you a simple one without getting involved in the translation of it, is Hanoisa Isha Mishum Momin, Mishum Znus, Mishum Kavit. Right? I didn't marry her because I want to raise a family for God. I have my ulterior motives, myself personally. That's all it is. In that case, the Benishim may not give you bracha in that type of a marriage, even though maybe I didn't do an Issa. But that itself is an Issa. It's not an Issa, it's itself that's wrong, because you're corrupting the reason the Benishim made the Indian of man and woman. They made a woman is for the repopulation of the world. That's what the purpose is. But what I've done is I've corrupted it. I've done it for my own reasons, not for the tachlis that the world should have from it. I have my own Yetzirah, my own, what do you call it? And therefore I'm trying to do it. There, when something goes wrong, it may be take moto, that'll be rain. I think over there. Then, but if I did it according to what I'm supposed to do, whatever it is, then the maximum I'm going to have is going to be tau. But it's also in link. Now it tells you it'll be Kisira Alideshe Kibim Aliyasif. The other way. Yeah, Kibim Aliyasif, I get it right. So that she teaches Kisira Alideshe, and really the Targum also teaches that way, but there's the rain, it's having rainstorms. But actually teaches strong winds. Grasses of food, stuff like that, require winds to strengthen the grass. I don't understand it, and I don't know what it means. But if you know, in the United States, we have what we call the wheat states, and they go down from probably South Dakota down. And where do you have most of the what do you call tornadoes and stuff in that area? You know, these are the big winds. Now, if you mean there has to be a wind that comes with rain, I think rain usually comes with the tornado too, with the storm and whatever it is, everything is being thrown apart. But that threatens the wind to the rain. What's it got to do with us? He says, my word should be like that. In other words, a person to grow has to go through his own problems in life, because otherwise you don't grow. How do you become a maimon in God? How do you not trust him? I have to first have problems, and I have problems, then I can find out that my problem got solved because God solved it and solved it for me. But I have to have the problems. Going through the problems are very painful. In other words, a guy, in order to know if I'm a real maimon or not, you got to break me. I'll give you a emotional thing there. You know, if you ask a poor person, you're wishing for a good year, coming new year now. Yeah, Gott wird helfen. He has nothing else to say. Gott wird helfen. That means he's religious. Just as Gott wird helfen has nothing else to say. Go to a very rich man and he says, Gott wird helfen. Yeah, he got $1 billion in the bank. Gott wird helfen. Doesn't mean anything either. The guy in the middle just has enough for what he needs. And somebody comes over and asks him, can I have some of yours? I need it. And he gives it to him. That man is about b'tachon. The other two, if they give, but that does make a difference, because the only poor man has less than he had before, but he still needs it from other people. And the rich man doesn't lose anything. So therefore, these words don't mean except from the middle guy. But you have to live through such a situation. If you learn Torah, you don't have to live through the situation. You can say you actually live through a situation anyway, whatever the situation is, because you always argue about it. To understand it, you have to try to put yourself as you can, much as you can into the case that Mo was talking about, and so on. That's that pain, but that's not pain. That's that you feel the tsar of the situation. You feel the pain of the situation, but you're not pain. Nothing's happening to you. It's just that your imagination is, how would you react in this case? And if you try to be honest, you'll have probably a certain amount of agmas nefesh and stuff like that. I don't know if I can hold out. I don't know if I can do it. But in the end, there was no reality to it. So therefore, there's no real plane to it. So that's what the Rebbeinu Shem is telling us. Study the Torah, you don't have to go through the aggravations of life. The Torah itself will take you through those aggravations, and it'll be like they strengthen you, that if they do come, it won't be an aggravation, it won't be anything, it won't even be a test, because there's no question that you'll pass it, and whatever it is there, because you're ready for it. That's what the Torah does for you. It also does kirvivim. It says rivim is, the rains, there's some rains that they usually hurt. They're like little pebbles, little you can't say BBs because they don't hurt that much, but I mean just if they pelt you. So the Torah has everything in it, and the person will find the answer to his problems in the Torah. It hits everything. Will hit the single problem. A drop will hit him, and you'll see a lot of times there are people that try to bring a raya from today's daf, stuff like that. That's what we're all learning. So therefore, I'm going to bring you a raya to something that happened. I'll talk about this thing, about that thing, and that thing, but current events, and it'll affect it from what he's learning. Because the Torah addresses all the problems, and if he's looking in it for that, he'll find that too. And this thing there. Well, they're true effect, they're true, but for him it's satisfied, so it accomplished with him a lot. The fact that he feels secure, he feels satisfied in his answer. Now God is taking care of him with that's sufficient really to go past to talking when a person has solace. What he really needs is an ear to listen to his solace. He doesn't really need the advice. Think about it when you have a psychologist, right? Yeah. Therapist, whatever you want to call him. And he charges you per hour, right? And he always just sits quiet while the other one talks. And he says, time's up. And the person gets up and thank you, doctor, and he'll come back in next month or next week or next 2 days later, and he's going to tell you the story again. What do you gain? Why is he paying money for that? Because he gets off his chest. He's giving it over to someone who he hopes, if there's something he can help him with, he'll help him with. But the ikil is he gets it off his chest. And the same thing when you come to the Rav or to the Rebbe and you start telling him your problems and stuff like that. That's basically what you're dealing with. That's half the nechama, is the fact that you listen, somebody's listening to my problems. And I think that's what he. Yeah, say later on, I'm going to go a little faster because I want to say a little thing in Barachas, and say some Barachas, which is probably there's no Friday before then. So it says, Vayishma Yeshua Vayivot. It means that you have everything you need and everything you want. What happens with that is all of a sudden you have a lot of free time. People years ago were never bored. They had to work all day long. And come on, finally get home at 10 o'clock at night. And they left for 6 in the morning to go to work. It was, I remember reading, I think it was in Ahmadiyya. They used to have in the days things that happened, so they even things happened in America. One of the things in 18-something, Vermont passed a 14-hour day. The 14-hour day. We have an 8-hour day. They had a 14-hour day, and they had to have a law to pass to have a 14-hour day. So how does a person live like that? But you're busy. That's what you have to do. That's the thing. You don't have, Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of free time. Hopefully it's used for learning, used for other things. But the Gemara says by Ksubis that if a woman even brings in 4 shifchas to a house, there's certain jobs she must do personally, certain personal jobs with her husband, because Habatol maybe they shimon. Not doing anything makes you crazy. And what he makes me crazy? I'm dying for a vacation where I can just sit around doing nothing. What do you mean that makes me crazy? Maybe after a while I get tired of doing nothing. That's the problem. It still doesn't make me crazy. It makes me experiment. Like this in life, I don't have to experiment. For instance, us, we from the Yidden, the tachlis food is to keep us alive. We like to enjoy it. We have certain foods that we eat, we're allowed to eat. Okay, so we're satisfied generally. I don't have it that often. I have it for Yontif, I have it for Shabbos, so what do you call it? That's something special. But the rest of the time, it's normal food. What happens if I have nothing to do in these things? I want to become a gourmet. And that means I'm seeking an experience of pleasure in food that I haven't had yet. Because everything else is blasé. I don't care about it anymore. The roof steak doesn't mean anything to me. No matter what you're going to do to it, it doesn't mean anything to me. I got to find something. I land up eating chocolate-covered ants. And that's what it used to be for a while. That was a big seller. Rattlesnake meat. The Macy's used to have a basement for selling these type of things. In the Macy's basement on 34th Street. You have crazy who would eat these things. A person who's seeking pleasure and he hasn't gotten it from the normal foods that he has, will look for something to do something crazy. The same thing in all relationships and everything that he has, that he looks for pleasure and he is bored with it. He had it already all the time. He's looking for something new, something different, something exciting. That's what's called shimon. It doesn't mean you go crazy, go off your head because you don't have anything to do. It means because you go trying to experiment to find things to excite you, makes you crazy. And you do crazy things to get that excitement. So that's what happens. My Yishman Yeshurun. So what they do by Yivot, they revolt, they reject me. Yeah. The end of the Sedek talks about, I know we're not really the end. It's, yeah. Just before, the last passage before Shishi. Says, I want you to see who I talk, who. I'm God, I'm him. I know with him, there's no other gods with me. And he omis v'chaya. I'm the one that kills and I make you alive. I hurt people and I cure them. Nobody can be saved from me. I'm a total control. There are no two Shiuros. The problem that society has, and I guess humanity, for why idolatrism started in the first place, is I think this problem that we have is how do you have two Shiuros? If God is good, why am I having all these problems? And therefore, the Christianity, what they've done, they divided into the Satan and Yoshke. One is, Yoshke is supposed to be good, the Satan is bad. That means you're giving the Satan keches. So really you have two Rishuas, there are two gods, two powers that are there. They're anti each other. Like the Mention tells you, no, there are no two powers. I do everything. So if you're doing everything, we have a kasha, right? So look for an answer. That's where B'tochen comes in a lot, because with Tzaddik Hadin, when you lose a korev and you have to sit shiva, the first thing right by the Levi, you say Tzaddik Hadin. All of a sudden you say God is just, God is everything, and he did, thank you very much. And he did everything that we had to do, and whatever it is, and we have to be Kabbalah because we don't understand. Not because we have to be Kabbalah because it's a bigger, he's stronger than we are. No, we have to be Kabbalah because we believe it's the right thing. This is right. It hurts us very badly, but when mice, it's so right. That's what a person has to believe. Now, I wanted to say something. I don't remember. If it hits me again, I'll make it mention. So therefore, we have to really think what we're really praying. When we say to God, please save me, it's really a little bit wrong. We should really be saying, please stop hurting me. Now, the question is, you deserve to be hurt, so what are you going to do about it? Okay, that's a question. So maybe you got to talk to Ben Shalom, doing trivia, whatever it is that I did. I'm sorry about it. I'm trying to find it. I don't know it. Maybe if you point it out a little bit more to me, I'll say it and I'll do tshuva on it. Fine. That's how you talk to a thing, and then truthfully, you won't feel it too bad because you know that if it's just the Benisham is giving you the einish, I probably deserve it. The question is why I deserve it. That I have to figure out in order for me to reach peace of mind myself. Like why is this so? But the truth is that the Benisham, when he does it in a just way, and a Rahmanistic way. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say before. The Rishonim, the Mefarshim at Shulchan Aruch, say this is a natural reaction, I think, when you go to an Avelis house, you go to a noble house. And he starts talking about the problem and, and the died and the thing and what a tragedy and everything else. And somehow you say sometimes the words, well, what can you do about it? What does that mean? So the Mefarshim and the Shulchan Aruch say that's kfir. Why? Because what you're saying is if you were able to do something, you would do it, even though the Rebbeinu Shem doesn't want it done. And that's kfir. You can't do something God doesn't want you to do. You're not supposed to do something God doesn't want you to do. So what you mean to say, connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom, there's nothing to do, but you didn't mean it in the sense that if I was able to, I would do against what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. That's not true. It's we have to accept. That's what we're trying to say. But I think we have to use a different language. And they're specifically talking now how to say the words, what can you do? Then he talks about the cycle of life, and really the whole Azinu talks about that. We're good, we get rewarded. The reward makes us satisfied, confident, whatever word you want to use. And therefore, we go off the derech. We go off the derech, we get punished. Right? We get punished, we do tshuva. The tshuva, we get good, God gives us the reward again. Then it's a cycle. That's all, then it keeps going around in a circle. Is it no way that we can reach and stay there? I think basically it's really what the Rebbeinu Shem told Avram Avinu. Until Avram Avinu was 99 years old, he was doing exactly what Noach did. In other words, I need help to do what I'm doing, but it doesn't mean need help. Meaning if you do good, you get blessed. And in Mela, it's easier to do good, but you don't have the fights. After he's 99 years old, the Rebbeinu Shem tells him no more. From now on, I want you to go first, meaning I'm going into the situation and it's not going to be good. And it's no guarantee that it'll be good. Maybe in Olam Haba there'll be a guarantee, but not here. There won't be schar mitzvah, al malekah. And therefore, so how do I keep going? When I see everything comes against me, how do I keep going? That's the problem. So I think the difference is this, what the Torah wants from us. It wants us to make a different idea of what life is supposed to be all about. I'll give you a mashal. If a kid, let's say he goes to public school, and there he tries out for the teams, right? Because and they have a pretty decent team, and the best thing, the biggest thrill in his life will be if they win the state championship, even if it's in Montana. Right? New York, it may be a big thing, but in Montana, I don't know. But even if it's in Montana, I get the state championship, yay, not a great thing. We don't go in for that. Shivas don't belong to those things. You have little sports is to give you some exercise and some relief from the pressure of learning. But it's not a point that I put myself into the sport. So if I put myself into the sport, I have disappointments in life, right? So Vensham is telling you, you have to make a different value, your value system. You have to make it finishing Shas is a state championship. Maybe even one Masechta is the state championship. Each thing has a goal, has a wonderful result, and you see it. You have it in yeshivas now. That the Bachrim, they do something that's normal. That's but they do it in what they do, and that's studying and what and learning and something, and they accomplish something. That simcha is as good as the simcha to a kid who plays ball and that wins the state championship, because that's what their pride is about. And since that's it, if we live a different way, we don't have the failures of life. If now we're different, like my goal in life is to make money. That's it. Make money. Then there's questions of failure and not failure. First of all. Secondly, what do you do about making money? Why is Bezos working? All the other guys that are making their Gates, anyone else in the billion-dollar line, the multi-billion-dollar line. Why are they working? Why don't they just take up their money, sell out, put it in the bank, keep some with you because the banks may go broke, and you go enjoy yourself wherever you want, all over the world. You can go, you're free to go to the fanciest, best. Okay. Why are you working? Why are you behind the desk for 9 hours a day and probably even longer and longer because all the big problems come to you? So if I get my kicks that way, that's what I like doing. I like to be boss and I like to tell guys, yeah, you can do this, you can't do this, I'll take your part, whatever it is. They're fun. So then you're getting your fun working. But let's assume you're a normal guy. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm not interested in competing with anybody. I don't need the aggravation of telling a secretary off they're not doing the work. I don't need this. So if you don't need it, so why are you in there? Well, what else am I going to do? What else are you going to do? You have nothing else to do. There's nothing in good deeds or anything else in the world that can make you do something, accomplish. So it's not an end in itself. It shouldn't be anyway, but unfortunately it is by some people. There's no difference between the guy who has $1 billion, the guy who has $200 billion, which I think this guy Bezos has already. So $200 billion, as far as having Hanoi and Elam Hazeh, there is nothing that can be hidden or is not available to the guy with the $1 billion. If that's the case, so why are you working? No answer. That's the point that it goes in a cycle. I find that I'm blocked. I can't make the triple million, the $100 million I intended to make. I only have to stick with my 15 billion. I remember a guy who was a big Baltzducker. He had $16 billion. And he supported a specific program. And unfortunately, he lost $1.5 billion in gold. Invested in gold and lost $1.5 billion. Fantastic sum of money, right? So he got 14.5 left. He thought he's going broke. All of a sudden, no more stock. What do you call it? Can't afford to give because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So they don't have any security either. No different than me, who's working for the few $100s. Okay, I want to go over a little bit to the point. We can talk about free choice maybe, but then we'll see when we finish with bracha if there's no time left. Okay. In Zeisa bracha, it starts off that the Ben Shem came from Sinai, he went to Seir, and then he went to Har Paran. And from there we learn out that he went to all the nations of the world and asked them if they wanted the Torah, and everybody rejected it except us. But the only two that are mentioned in the Torah is Seir and Har Paran. And Rashi says Seir is Esav, Papa and Shmuel. So there you can say the reason he had to go specifically to them, and maybe even to have with them a dialogue, in the sense because Avram Avinu is their father too. And therefore the Torah belongs to Avram Avinu and all his descendants. And therefore made to reject it. Now, why didn't he go to the 6 children that he had from what do you call it? Keturah, from Keturah, those 6 children, either because he never raised them to be anybody, because he gave them in the end the Shemus Hatume, he sent them to the east, which could be why all the Eastern religions have these crazy things which do work, but they're still Avodah Zarah or magic. He sent them to the east, and then he doesn't see that he seemed to have asked them to the Torah, because even though Avram's, I'm saying could be that they were Avram's children through a shifcha, or someone I never had any intention of raising him for Hashem. But Yishmael, he did. Originally, Sarah took it for her child through Hagar, but for her child. And he was the replacement of Avram Avinu. And he came a long way in the understanding of Es Halakim Es Halach, but he couldn't change over to Es Halach Lefanai. That's Yitzchak. And from Yitzchak came Esav. So therefore, we have a case where you already have Es Halach Lefanai in you. And the Bnei Shalom is saying, and I have a child that is off the derech, but I have to try and get him back. And that's his point, because this is his. So I had to have a complete rejection. The Shaila is to understand that, the Menachem came to Esav and he said to him, you want to Torah? And supposedly they asked him, what does it say in the Torah? And he said, it says you can't kill. Can't kill. That's not for me. It says, because Yitzchak gave me a bracha, I have to live through my sword. So therefore, it's not for me. I said, can you believe that there be a nation that's out to kill people and that still exists? The world would unite and wipe them out. And that doesn't make any sense. So what I think it would mean is that these are the policemen of the world, the CIA, what do you call it? And their job is sometimes to eliminate people. Like, remember that time in Chile years ago, the Shadlif, the CIA assassinated the president or not. He was becoming a socialist over there. I don't remember the whole story. I remember about 40 years ago. The president of Chile, there was a big tumult at the CIA. Got wiped them out. And this could be in many places where, let's say, somebody's an enemy of the United States. We need people to make sure that they're not around. And they killed Osama bin Laden, right? And I need people that are going to hunt them and hunt them and hunt them until they get them. They happen to be soldiers. Okay, soldiers are also the same idea. This is my work. It's my profession. I'm a professional soldier. My job. I'm a mercenary. There are mercenaries actually who hire themselves out as for armies. This is the thing. They're very good at what they do, and I think this is it. The world needs such people sometimes, and therefore there's a need for them. Whether it's a good need or a bad need, but it's a need for them. So unfortunately, they have that. They have a support system. So therefore, they're still alive. Same thing goes with Yishmael. Yishmael wants to say there. Yishmael said, it says, don't steal, the Torah says. He said, how can I do not steal? I'm doing business all day long. Right? And we all understand the Yitzhak of business and the Messianis in business of, I'll give you a very simple one, which was big problem until I think was solved a certain weight thing. Guy, you go into a take-home place, take-out place, and you want a pound of chopped liver. So they fill up this container, they weigh it on the thing, and it's a pound. But the container has weight. Am I paying for the container the price I'm paying for chopped liver? Oh, I've got a problem. How much should I take off? I'm saying before we were able to calibrate the scales that they can actually set it at minus something for each different weight that they put on. But that time he didn't do that. And the guy said, he gave, this is one particular guy I spoke 2 years ago. He said, I know the problem. I take off 20 cents from the price. So I said, you can't do that because you take off 20 cents from coleslaw and you take 20 cents off from chopped liver, and it's not the same. You're paying a lot more for chopped liver than you're paying for coleslaw. So 20 cents isn't enough. If you're going to try and figure out how much it is proportionate to the thing, then you can do it. But then you'd have to have a whole cheshbon what I'm selling and this and this other word. And I think it's not a simple thing. Anyway, nowadays I think it's solved that problem. But that's a case where I'm a thief, even not wanting to be a thief. I want to give you what you want, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
I think it's simple. It's to give a little more liver.
Yeah, that costs me money. That I'm not giving away. And there's, I remember.
That's what Bush Island used to do. Give a little more.
A deli owner once told me that the salesman from the wax paper that time, I don't know what they put the deli in now, but it used to be in wax paper. He said, when it comes with the wax paper, his wax paper weighs more than all the other wax papers on the market. And at the end of a day's work, if you really have a good deli, you save yourself about a pound of meat. And a pound of meat, that thing is like $16 times, whatever it is there. So when you're talking about $100 a week, that was big money. So you got $100 just from cheating the people. But I'm cheating. I took off 3 cents from this guy, took off 20 cents from that guy. He doesn't even know he's missing it. Remember, we had this shiur, there was a bakery away from the yeshiva. Going home, there was one bakery that it was a commission bakery. And there was a worker there. And everyone buying, you always get one slice less than what you think disappeared, one slice. He complained to him, what are you doing? He said, my boss tells me he'll get me fired if I have to give it to you. Now, how do you buy from him? I know he's going to rob me. So maybe with Neiva, right? So I'm Michael you, but Michael doesn't help me because he don't. But it's after the fact. That's so I want to be Michael before the fact, and that doesn't stop the fact that he's cheating me. So we learned what we had to buy. Give me 10 pieces of bread, and whatever you charge me, something like that. Not give me a weight, a pound, and it'll always be a slice less than a pound. And because then you're gonna have what do you call it? It's cheating you. And you can't do it. And so in business, it's very hard to be honest, completely honest. And I don't mean people are crooks. That's not they definitely, if they do it because they either can't figure out how to be honest, how to do it, how to really be able to do it, or what. Anything, even if you say you give more, so it's recommended here, could be that the more doesn't even mention it because I have to use a different container. It doesn't fit in my container. The pound container is called a pound container because that's what it contains, usually. I'm saying so. I need to use the 2 pound container now. 2 pound container is selling at 1 pound. Probably the thing weighs more now. The 2 pound weighs even more than the pound weighs. Have more things to make. I don't know the answer to this, but that was a problem. It was a basic problem. Now, as they say, when I was younger, they were able to calibrate those scales to put it as a -3 or -2 or minus whatever it is there, and then you get the pound after the weight of the thing. But they have to keep doing that, and if you forget to do it sometimes, whatever it is. There's also natural tendencies that they tell people how to be how to sell. Give you a marshal. This has been tested, or so they claim. There are two people selling candy, the same thing in the same store. One person, when you order a pound, will put in and will always keep adding a little bit until they get to the pound. The other person puts on a lot and taking off until he gets to the pound. The one that keeps adding has a line waiting for him, and the one that takes off, they know when he wants his daughter. Even though you're both selling the same pound, no one's giving you more. But it looks like they're getting more. And that itself makes a difference, I think. So all of these things are very hard when you're dealing with people and dealing with buying. So when you're the merchants of the world. So that's what the Ishmaelim were. They were the businessmen. They were the one that gets from one place to the other place, caravans, all this type of stuff. So if you're gonna make an issue of Gezel on us, we can't operate, right? And the world needs us. In other words, without businessmen, we don't have a world. So we need businessmen. So we have to accept a certain amount that's going to happen, whatever it is. That's the price of doing business, as it's called. You should know that that blushing is a legal thing, I think. The guy will cash a check made out to you, right? And you can prove it, right? So, but the guy he skipped town. My taina is to the bank. My name, this name, is not authorized to get my check. How do you get it? So it's there are different judges passing in different ways. Even to that's the price of doing business. It's the way of men, gentlemen. You can't ask the bank to keep checking everything. So they paid it out. So what do you want them to do? It's your job to look at your whatever you call it, your monthly thing and make a complaint. I trust you that you add straight. That doesn't help me. I look at the last line on me, how much is in my bank account. And that is where you lose your money. And not many people really lose money that way, but they do. Okay. So I think that they would have to give them rejection as opposed to the other nations having to accept that they didn't. Yeah. Rashi also brings down that why is Yehuda next to Reuven? In other words, it should be Levi should be next to Reuven. Shimon Moshe Rabbeinu didn't give a bad out of the bracha. He was what I call angry, upset of him because the nice and But the next word goes Reuven Levi Yehuda, and it's Reuven Yehuda Levi. So why is Yehuda next to Reuven? So it says, of course, Reuven to be Moide, Yehuda. So therefore, he comes next to. Okay, maybe it's a nice point. But what they got to do with the brachas for Klal Yisrael? Reuven and Yehuda were personal averos. They did. And they didn't do averos of the Klal. They did personal averos. Reuven, switched the beds. He was thinking up for his mother. So he switched the beds. And what do you call it? And Yehuda, and he saw his father was very upset about it. And he was very sorry about it. They tshuva for all the years about it. But he never admitted it. I'm talking about at least 11 years that he admitted it until Yehuda does the Ma'aseh with Tamar. And at that point, Reuven is able to say his Seidoi, and he did. So what? So you gave me that I was able to get it off his. Reuven was able to get it off his chest. What has it got to do with a bracha for all time? Giving Avram, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving a bracha to Klal Yisrael for the generations. What has that got to do with the generations? So we talked about this in the Reishis, but it's the union of simply that is what the care of the leaders are. What did Reuven do? He not only argued with his father was also the leader of Klal Yisrael at that time, Yankov Avinu. And he arguing with him because he doesn't see his side of the issue. And let's take it apart. It's what they call Yaakov's bed. I always found it difficult to claim that it's really a bed, because you don't flip a bed from one place to the other place. Every night he's got to sleep somewhere else, and he takes his bed with him. It sounds like a lot of work to do. They slept on the floor. It was an old sleeping bag. But if you're talking about a bed, he's not taking the bed along. But you can say probably what he did was he had a bed in every wife's house, apartment for him. But he had a dresser in one place. In other words, you have to pick up the nightly clothes that he would pick, his underwear, his pajamas, whatever he would take with him. He would pick up every night at one place and then go to where he had to go. So that was in Rachel's tent. No, it was like more private. You were more my wife than any of the others. However you want to translate it to me. And then when she died, so he put it in the tent of Bilhah. So Reuben came along and took it out of that tent and put it in the tent of Leah. And Yaakov was very upset. The world will say, why are you upset? Well, Yaakov is upset, but why do you feel bad about it? You stood up for the covenant of your mother. What you tiny? You thought the rabbis were wrong. Your leaders were wrong, so you stood up for what you thought was right. Because you didn't think it through. Because the question you have is, why did Taki Yaakov do it? I mean, was that Yaakov really that inconsiderate about his wives and to make him feel bad one for the other and so on, that's the way he treated them? You're my number one, you're my number two, and you're my number three, number four. Yaakov Avinu says, no, I only have two number one wives, two are shifras. So they're a different category. But two are my wives. And if she would have made it, Rachel, there would have been two wives buried with him in the Me'os Machpelah. But she was buried on the side of the road, so Leah is the only one that gets to be in the Me'os Machpelah. I have two number one wives. And I don't want the people to think that if I put it into Leah's tent now, what they're going to say is that Leah was number two. Because you see, before then it was in Rachel's tent, now all of a sudden he put it into Leah's tent. So it must be Rachel, we know she was number one. And now Leah's become number one because Rachel's not here anymore. So that's not true. I don't want the world to think that way. I had two wives, they're both number ones. Maybe one was more personal, one was more for Klal Yisrael. I can't answer you why they're both equal, but they were both equal to me. They're both the Yemoyis and Klal Yisrael. They're both equal. So I can't put it into her tent. So I put it into a shifra's tent, that the people understand that a shifra is not my relationship with her. She's not my number one wife. So therefore, there's nothing to do. So Reuven, by doing it, insulted his mother by saying that she was number two, and that was not true. Shaila is, why did Reuven do it? Because he happened to be around when he brought the Dudoyim, when they had this argument by about whose wife, whose husband, what all that is. So he saw the contention between the two. So in that case, he saw his mother as number two. And because he saw his mother as number two, he typed up the intention of Yaakov is to keep her as number two. And that was his mistake. His mistake is he should have relied on the leaders. That's what a person is a leader in Klal Yisrael. You don't always know the reasons that leaders do things, but they have a motive. And the motive in this case was one, l'toiv, that he did not want his Aliyah to be considered number two. And Reuven, by doing what he did, made her become number two. And that was the stuff that he was upset about. And Reuven, I said, believe did tshuva right away. He realized it was too late. He did the action and stuff like that. And therefore, he needed for Klal Yisrael that they should realize that when leaders do something, you can't just do something without understanding what they're doing. You can't come along and say, I disagree with them, if you don't even know what to do, why they're doing something. So therefore, that's their job, leading. You stay out of it. It says later on in the bracha to Zvulun, the very interesting bracha. The Zvulun Oma, he says to Zvulun, Smach Zvulun b'seisach. Zvulun should always be happy when he goes out to make panosa. V'yisocha b'elecha, and Yisocha in the tents. Third way, and most people learn that it means V'yisocha should be happy in the tent of Zvulun. Right? Because they're being supported. So I'm giving them a bracha to this. It doesn't say it says anything to Yisachar. To all of them, it says Levi Omar, and what he called is Oishli Yehuda by Reuven. It doesn't just says Reuven. But the other one it says the Yamin Omar, the Yosef Omar, right? So it should have said the Yisachar Omar. It doesn't say Yisachar Omar. Says Yisachar, I don't have to give a bracha to. Yisachar has the Torah. It's the biggest bracha in the world. He's a happy man. Just give him a couple of bucks for food, and he's a happy man. Leave him alone. Right? But Zvulun, he's the one that has to be matzliach and panasa and everything else. So I give him the bracha that he should make it and should be happy in his doing it. By having Yisachar in his tents, that makes him hatzlachadik and be able to go weiter and to make all this bracha and stuff like that. But it's not that Yisachar gets a bracha. No, you bracha to Yisachar. Yisachar doesn't need a bracha. Yeah. We always find that by the Masoyas and by the brachas of Yankov Avinu, Naphtali was last. Even though he was not the last son to be born, it's done. Naphtali got Usher. Usher is the last son to be born. So L'chayre should be Usher should always be last in whatever in the brachas are and everything else. Like he is in this case here. How come he always had, what do you call it, Naphtali last? And because of that, Naphtali was always last. When he came to the Masoyas, the Machne of Don was Don, Osher, Naphtali. Now it's Naphtali came after Osher, but he's older than Osher, so why should be Don Naphtali Osher? I think the reason for it is I believe that the reason that Usher is alive is because of Naphtali. In other words, he would not have given over. It's done Naphtali, when Naphtali was born, or she was pregnant with Naphtali, Bilhah, at that time, Leah gave Zilpah to Yaakov Avinu. Why? Because he saw that she had, whatever reason, she had to give it. The thing over that, he said that he's called me Socha, because to get the schar for giving over whatever it is. That was that I did the right thing. She gave over the thing. So if there wasn't that, and I can't say jealousy, if it wasn't that that seeing somehow but the other one is getting ahead of you. So what I can't, I don't know the meat of what you would say it is, but the fact that she gave it over, so made it only because she was pregnant. So really it should be God. I mean, God should have Naphtali. The Torah Naphtali could be God is also the same thing. So why is God different? Because God is put into Reuben's machane. So it's Reuben, Shimon, God. So he's out of the picture. So the only ones that are left from the Shvachis is Naphtali and Asher. So they put Naphtali last because he's the cause of Asher. Okay? So that's as far as Klal Yisrael being a like Muslim. Klal Yisrael is proper. But we're talking about Moshe's brachas for Klal Yisrael, even in Golos, even when they're not together. In that case, I give you Naphtali first, because he's alone now. Each shaved for himself. I got to give them that bracha that make them be able to go through the Golos. And that always comes before Yosher. Yeah. Then just we'll end off with this thing. It says, "Vayifku b'nei Yisrael es Moshe." Bnei Yisrael cried for Moshe 30 days. By Aaron it says, "Kol beis Yisrael," means the woman too, the woman and the children too. And the reason is because Aaron made Pshon bias, and whatever it is there, Moshe wasn't in that. He was only in Torah, so Torah only affect the men. Someone asked me this question. He says, you go to the Levaya of a Gadol, and the big crowds of men sitting but on one corner stands the Beisyankiv girls, and you see them crying their hearts out. So how can you say it doesn't affect the women? Women are just as affected as the men. I said, yeah, but the answer is Shloshim Yom. Rather they cried to Moshe, but cry for 30 days, that they can't do. Now, they don't want you to cry for 30 days in a row. You got to feel that pain every single day. That they don't feel because the Torah, that wasn't the Torah. But on Shalom Bayis, they felt that every single day. They cried for 30 days. That's the difference. I think unfortunately, the men in our cases for the Gedalim feel just like the girls. It's only for the moment that there's tears. You don't feel for the 30 days. That's unfortunate. But the mice that's the difference between the men and the women. Anyway, you should all have a good gesunden year. Got to take care of yourselves. Make sure everything is good because whatever it is, supposedly on the uptick. So saying gesund, people should be careful. And Yirtzeh Hashem will continue after Sukkot. Yirtzeh Hashem, very well. Good job. Go on.
Good job, Rabbi.
Good job.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Maxim Tov, good Shabbos, Rabbi.
Shabbos, Rabbi.
Shabbos,
Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos, Rabbi.